Good afternoon. How are you? Well, I'm down in Georgia and I'm walking and talking a little bit. Temperatures in the high 60s, 70 was about the warmest it got today. And we had a chance to go and look around the area. Beautiful scenery, no evidence of suffering elsewhere with the power outages, the roads that were destroyed and are being repaired, and the people who are dealing with the damage to their homes. So where we are is pretty comfortable. We went to a great waterfall. It's not far from here today that had actually been mentioned by one of our gang, if you will. So the Dirt Road gang. So the area where I am, I'm walking on a road and there are trees. I mean, the trees are thick and high, and I mean, if the tree is 60 years old, it's young for some of the trees I've seen around here. So what's in the news today worth talking about? Well, I think there's a great deal actually, but there are a couple of things I'm going to pivot on, and one of them is 60 Minutes. Probably like you, I've always thought highly of 60 Minutes, and years ago, many years ago, like 1985, I think, I appeared on 60 Minutes to discuss the efforts of prosecuting Raymond, I don't know any mobsters, Donovan, the labor secretary. And, my friends cautioned me, and I said, let's see what happens. It worked out very well. But today, 60 Minutes was talking about those who were prosecuted for January the 6th. And it was so balanced as to the uninformed observer to give credibility to Trump's notion that those prosecuted and in jail are hostages, and he's going to consider releasing them. They had a single prosecutor on who said, oh no, we did this all fair and square, and it was pretty weak. And one of the persons who had actually pled guilty for his misconduct came on and said he still believed that Trump had been bad done by the 2020 election. Now, if we have people working in the field telling the truth, and we have a still powerful organ like 60 Minutes giving credibility to Trump, what kind of a country can we expect? And given 60 Minutes' reputation, it almost strikes me as if corporate wants to give Trump a leg up. And if you study the common denominator, it seems to me, of people taking Trump's side among the wealthy, it is that there's only one issue they're concerned about. And that issue is whether or not they're going to have to pay more taxes. And there's a lot more than that. And it says something about the transactional nature of anything involving Trump. So 60 Minutes had other stories that also had problems, but this one was the headliner for me, because to have had the congressional hearings and report, to have the indictment in D.C., and barely mentioned, and then not mentioning what the hell has Garland been doing all this time, if this was a wrong act, and failing to do anything for years against Trump. And so this is a pretty distressing state of how the First Amendment is being abused by one of the primary channels of information and news that's been respected for so many years. Now, the other thing I've noticed down here in Georgia is that Kamala is on the air frequently, several times an hour, judging by the occasional TV we're watching. And I have more TV here than we have at home because we protect ourselves by dealing with mostly streaming. But there are ads on the air talking about Kamala and putting down Trump, rightly so. And the most significant is we have Trump talking to a group of contributors saying, "You're all rich," and then he basically impliedly says, "Well, you'll be even richer if you elect me." And then Kamala comes on, talks about her program. You know, these things are like a minute and a half. And then it finishes with a resounding, go out and vote for Kamala and Tim. So there is the groundswell on the lowest levels, grassroots levels, selling why Trump is no good. And you would just think that how could anybody possibly want to have Trump again? Well, why they would nominate him, any of these things. And so something is broken in the soul of the American nation when so many people can make this a razor's edge election, and it's in the battleground states that do not reflect America, and in a nation in which, again, we are going to have a large national vote that's going to favor Kamala. But if we do not act with care in the battleground states, we could have a rerun of 2016, and that's what Trump is working on, and shows like 60 Minutes bring that out. So you would think that the average voter would say, what is good about Trump? What is good about Harris? And who should I vote for? Now, we went shopping to get some food. And at the checkout, a very nice lady, 55. And I was talking to her about work and, you know, I guess you've been doing this a while. And she said she'd been doing it for quite a number of years. But lately, her health was making it difficult to do it. And I said, oh, so you're able to work here, and she gets a certain disability. And I said to her, so, you know, we seem friendly enough. I said, so are you going to vote for Kamala? And she said, I don't know. And she said she was concerned about Social Security and Medicare and these kinds of things. And she didn't want those to go away. And I said, but Trump is pretty clear that Obamacare, which was one of the principal things that she talked about, that Obamacare not be compromised. And I said, well, Trump, if elected, is against Obamacare. And what Obamacare has done for your care, theoretically at least, with the right support and a president opposed to it, you could lose it. And I tried to ask her what she thought of McCain to see if how McCain, a very conservative Republican, voted against Trump on the question of compromising Obamacare. And then she said to me that my mother, and she's 55, that my mother is concerned about this. And her mother is basically for Trump. And she was telling me the equivalence of if she votes for Kamala Harris, she's not going to be able to tell her mother about it. And I said, that's just fine. And my brother-in-law was with me, and he was standing there, and he seconded the motion about, you don't have to tell your mother what you're doing, a woman of 55. So here's a woman who has health problems, is concerned to keep Obamacare, which has made a big difference in her life, the ACA, Affordable Care Act, and she's concerned about keeping that. And it's not an easy question for her to vote for Kamala, who is for that care. And again, there was nothing looking at the woman that she was ill, but that's not a joking matter in 55 to have a need for health care and insurance. That's a big deal. So what do I get out of this? What I get is the tug of war going forward is her friends who've already talked to her, and said to her something, I guess, along the lines that I told her, because when I was saying these things, she says, people are telling me to look at this, look at that. And I said, well, shouldn't you? I said, because this is a big deal to you personally. This is not academic. So when we walked away, my brother-in-law, Sonny, gave me a high five for organizing as we were shopping. But here's the thing. This was a conversation between two people, one who lives in Georgia, one who lives in Virginia, Northern Virginia. And we came a cropper on the indecision to vote for Kamala about something critically relevant to this woman's health. How does that happen? How is that possible? And so on some level, there's obviously peer pressure. There's emotion. I suppose I didn't ask her that she voted in the last election for Trump. But with all of the things, how could she not appreciate that's what's best for her and her family and her future is to vote for Kamala Harris. So we are, to put this in some sort of frame of reference, we are necessarily looking carefully at what media says, including ones that we think are going to be fair, like 60 Minutes, like our friends at various news organizations, what people are writing and so forth. The biggest problem I see, as I was listening to the 60 Minutes piece, in my mind, I was editing the script. That is what I would put in that would be fair, but it would be critical. It would not have been on the one hand and the other hand, which this was close to that. But it then went a step further, I thought, and tipped the hand to Trump, because they repeatedly show him talking about these poor hostages. And they make a mistake that some people do, which is to not make the argument, in this case, the factual concern of what's going on here. And the factual concerns being, does law matter in America? And they did have a piece later on in the show about what China is allegedly doing with the Philippines, and conversations with the Philippines about what is China doing in the waters to try to enforce a line that expands the Chinese power, hegemony, control over the waters to the disadvantage of the Philippines by literally ramming their boats. And the question there was put pointedly, which was, so what about the law? What about justice? Why does this go on? And the person in charge of the military for the Philippines said, it's not working. See, this is a worldwide problem, that we have law, we have rules, they're disobeyed because they figure they have the force to do whatever they want, and we're doing nothing to deal with that. Now, we've said, we have a defense agreement with the Philippines, but we're not treating these things as attack on the Philippines when I think they are in violation of international law and acts of war. Some who remember their history from World War II particularly know that this is a problem. So going back to the 60 Minutes piece and to those who say friendly things about Trump that also contradict facts in the law seem to be under a couple of restraints. One is that corporate wants it that way for their bottom line. Another is that the investigation isn't going deep enough to make it a fair report. And I don't know if it's because there's a huge maw and they can't get their hands on the news and do it right. So that's why there's a shift in the balance of advocacy to us, the people, and that we have to keep it straight. Kamala's doing it with ads, she's doing it with campaigning. We have to do it with phone calls, door knocking if we can do it, contributions, working on election day, anything that makes it work. Now in my state in Virginia, if all the pieces stay where they are, we're 8 points ahead. Tim Kaine is a popular senator. So I don't think Virginia is going to be a challenge as it's been a concern in the past. But other states, this is different. And there are encouraging signs in congressional races and Senate races that we may win in those where others thought we would not. So that's what I got to say. And as I've been out here, it started to rain. And I took a little snippet of the waterfalls that I was at today, and I'll put that up as well so you can get some idea of our natural beauty in the face of Gaia's displeasure with Earth. As a final remark, I might point out that I have two thoughts for people who have Trump signs in their yards and have never pressed any elected official to do something about global warming, to do anything about the environment. These people suffer because of it, and they believe something like this kind woman that we met at the Walmart, that they're stuck in elements of peer pressure, they're stuck in elements of habit, they're not getting good information, but they do know certain things they experience, but they're not connecting that. And that's because when you have a dictator-like person or a flat-out dictator, you have this emotional charge that allows the emotion to believe things that your thinking, disciplined head would never agree to. And so the reins in your hand to pull in an emotion running away, the reins being disciplined thought and concern, the reins are not affecting these people, not as they would normally. And I suspect that woman that I spoke to, that the meter will, go past top for the period of time after we walked away. And will it settle back where it was before and settle into the habit of her friends and family against their own personal interests? Like the same people who suffered in Georgia in recent days, not where I am, but elsewhere, and seriously, who are going to pull the lever for Trump, although he is in part responsible for the deterioration of our efforts to fight against global warming. Going back to the Paris Accords, going forward with electronic EV cars and all those kinds of things. So the world is in a tizzy, and it's in a place of high ambiguity, and this favors the chaos that allows a person like Trump to score points. And now it's pretty seriously raining, so I'm going to sign off in my reposition Cathedral of Trees. Bye-bye.